Hello again and welcome. Michael Pizzolla here. I'd like to welcome you to this edition of the Value Capping Rant. This is the 2021 Belmont Stakes edition. And in this video, I'd like to take you through the process of value capping the 2021 Belmont Stakes. We'll take a look at the historical pace and position of the winners since 2012, not including last year's mile and an eighth rendition. And we'll look at how the winners were in terms of their position in the race and how they distributed their speed and their energy. Now, history is fine, but we're also going to project and take a look at the projection of the pace and position of the runners in the 2021 Belmont. We'll take an in-depth look at the runners in that context to see which ones kind of fit and which ones are going to have a harder time of it. Finally, we'll look at the odds lines and we'll make an assessment as to whether there's a value bet or not. And that's really the point of value capping. Not so much about finding the winner as opposed to finding a good value bet. But let me explain that last point and put this video into context, if I may. Allow me to introduce myself. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Michael Pizzolla. I've been writing about and teaching about this great game for the past 30 plus years. I'm the author of the best-selling book, Handicapping Magic, co-author of the classic Pace Makes the Race. I'm proud to say I'm the creator of the original online racing forum, which it's called Post Time Daily now, and cleverly there's a website called posttimedaily.com. And I am also the creator of the ValueCapper software. And the ValueCapper software is what I will be using in this video to take the Belmont Stakes race apart. If you want to learn more about value capping, more than I can explain to you in this short video, I've done a free video course for you at ValueCapper.com. Put in your first name and email and you'll get videos every couple of days. So here's the context that I want you to think about, or I'd appreciate if you would, that here's what I do, okay? I help handicappers and horse players succeed in the modern game by overcoming their confusion and their overwhelm with all this massive amount of information that's available on the internet and elsewhere, and adopting a value-oriented approach so they can increase their return on investment. So unlike others who are concerned just about solely with picking a winner, and not only just a winner, but the winner of a particular race, what I do is to teach players to find good value bets, overlays, if you will. Betting when there is value, passing where there isn't, and thus developing a sense of a stress-free investment strategy. Okay, with that context, bear in mind this is not a touting video. I'm not interested in picking horses for you, for anyone else. I don't even like that term because what I'm looking is for a good value bet. By the way, if you're interested in touting videos, there are 100 of them on the Belmont Stakes, probably up by the time you're watching this video. Rather, what I'm doing is to demonstrate the principles of value capping, which really are very simple. You bet horses that you like, obviously, but not so obvious that the public shouldn't. And preferably those horses will be running against vulnerable favorites. You wait for your price, and that's crucial. And the last one's a little tricky to describe. You let the bet make you. In other words, through practice, you get a felt sense of when the situation is right. Second, I'm making this video days ahead of the Belmont Stakes. I don't know if there will be any further scratches. I don't know if there will be, and by further scratches, I mean horses that, or colts that they thought were going to run, like Keep Me in Mind and so forth, that I don't know how the final field will be if there are scratches. I also don't know if there will be weather changes. I looked to see, and Saturday looks pretty clear and nice in Elmont, New York. Yes, it's Elmont, not Belmont, the name of the town. And but they do say there might be rain on Thursday and Friday. So an off track, and there hasn't been one in the Belmont Stakes for a while. So that will throw the calculations a bit off from what I will be presenting to you. I need to remind you that software, numbers, any tool, they're just tools. They're not crystal balls. They're not a way to see into the future. You can't, as far as I know, predict anything with certainty, 100% absolute certainty. Well, maybe if I drop my little clicker on the ground, it'll fall. Okay, I'll grant you that. But certainly in horse racing, these are pointers to where good bets may be. But it's not like push a button, get a winner. This doesn't work like that. Okay? And finally, potential value bets are price dependent. That means if there's no price, there's no bet. If there's no adequate price. If I say I want 6 to 1 on a horse and the horse is going off at 3 to 1, I just simply pass that horse. I won't bet it. And if it wins, it wins. If it loses, I don't really care because I haven't bet the race. And that may shock you a little bit. Well, you did something wrong. No. I did something very, very right, is I stayed out of a position where I wasn't getting paid for the risk I took. The risk reward wasn't there. Okay, so with all of that in mind, I'd like to invite you to come and sit over my shoulder, to sit and look over my shoulder, and we'll take a closer look at the Belmont. It'll just be like you and me sitting down at my desk, and I'll show you the inner workings of some of the features of ValueCapper and what it did with this year's Belmont Stakes. Usually this is something I only do for my private coaching clients, but I wanted to share this with you because I really want to get you an idea. Okay, enough talking. Let's go and take a look at the 2021 Belmont Stakes. Okay, so in this part of the video, we're going to look at what ValueCapper did on the Belmont. And I'll just show you the screen right away, because some of you will just want to see this and skedaddle, and that's fine. Thanks for joining us. Essential Quality and Hot Rod Charlie, to no one's surprise, are at the top of the line. And the question is, are they worth a bet? Do they distribute their energy properly to make the energy that they do have effective in the Belmont Stakes? And the most important thing is their value. I mean, Essential Quality, right, 4th in the Derby, Hot Rod Charlie, 3rd in the Derby, Known Agenda, maybe 9th in the Derby, Rock Your World, an unfortunate 17th after the bad break. Rombauer, of course, the Preakness winner. Bourbonic, the Wood winner, and I think he was 72 to 1. I think he finished 13th in the Derby, if my memory is proper. Overtook, just ran in the Peter Pan, and Franz Godina. Who knows? So let's take a look. And I want to take you through the pace analysis and do it in a way where we will look at the recent Belmont Stakes, okay, from 2012 on, not counting 2020. And please notice this, the percentage of energy that a horse distributes. In other words, from the start to the second call is one measurement. Then the entire race is another measurement. And the ratio of that we call the percentage energy expenditure. This is something I first was familiar back in the old Perco days and have refined it a bit. I worked with a large database to get that refined. Anyway, these energy numbers are very, very consistent. If you look, and let me take this apart, because this has got the Brooklyn. They don't run 1.5 miles that long at Belmont. I believe it's the that and Woodbine are the only 1.5 mile around courses. And I think the Woodbine one, the outer course, is the only one that's 1.5 miles, and that's on the grass. So this is it. Let's take a look. Let's winnow this down to just the Belmonts and take a look at how consistent those energies are. Reading down 49.94, 50.59, 50.40. Those are really late numbers. Now you see numbers like that often on the turf, but to have that consistency on a dirt race is very, it's unusual. Notice also the beaten lengths at the first and second calls. I particularly bring your attention to the beaten lengths at the second call. Going backwards from 2019, 3.70, 2.1, 3.50. You gotta be fairly close up. So 8 of the 8 last Belmont winners that will run at 10 furlongs were within 3.5 lengths at the second call. 8 of 8. 7 of the last 8 of the Belmont winners run at 10 furlongs, 1.5 miles, had energy percentage in a rather tight range between 49.9 and 50.8. That's a late distribution. Very late. Early pressing is like 52 and change, early 53. So those numbers are very late. Now, that's historical. What's the projected pace in this year's Belmont Stakes? Well, again, to no one's surprise, ValueCapper projects through its acupressure screen that Rock Your World will have the lead at the first call. I mean, I think he's just gonna gun it and go for it, because that's the way this colt wins. And he had a terrible start in the Derby. I still don't know what to make of his Santa Anita Derby win, because as I told you, those numbers weren't so good. Now, Medina Spirit came out of that race and, won the race. And Rock Your World finished 17th. So, I don't know, but it looks like Hot Rod Charlie will be there with him for a little bit, and then Hot Rod Charlie will make that middle move. You see, from 4 lengths back, okay, these are not precise. From a little bit back of Rock Your World to perhaps taking the lead at the second call. And then there are a bunch of horses with closing ability as well. Well, these are champions. They should have the ability to do both, really. But here's the problem. Not a problem. Here's what ValueCapper presents. After all of that, after looking at historical and all, we've got Essential Quality and Hot Rod Charlie right up at the top. The two not quite morning line favorites. Essential Quality is a morning line favorite. The second morning line favorite is Rombauer, which you would expect because he just won the Preakness after all. And then you've got Hot Rod Charlie. But 2 of the 3 morning line favorites are up there right at the top of the ValueCapper line. We've got them at 7-2 and 4-1, respectively. And I just don't think there's going to be you're certainly not going to get any overlay to 7-2 on Essential Quality, I don't believe. And Hot Rod Charlie, will you get, is 9-2 enough to take on that? I don't think so. If I've made him 4-1, or the ValueCapper software that I created made him 4-1. So I guess I could say I made him 4-1. Yeah, I made him 4-1. I want 6-1 on that. 7-1 maybe. Don't know if I'll be getting it. And then we're down into the other horses. So historically, okay, so a colt needs to be within 3.5 lengths. So you might say, hey, Michael, I noticed you got all those fancy buttons in the software. Well, I tried to take a lot of them out so people don't start clicking around for like 15 minutes. Click, 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 click. Oh, I could have had that one. Oh, I could have had that one. Yeah, sure. Yeah, right. After the race, right? Okay. So, but you might say, look, I know you got an early bias thing. I saw one of your past videos. Let's set this up early because you got to be close. Well, guess what? We did. Here's the early bias. And guess what? Essential Quality and Hot Rod Charlie are still there. All right. So if at first you don't succeed, try again, right? Well, Michael, historically, a colt needs to distribute the energy late to win the Belmont. Shouldn't we set this race up as late? Okay, Sparky, here we go. Put it on the late bias. Sorry, It's the, not sorry. Sorry, not sorry. It's the same two colts at the top, Essential Quality and Hot Rod Charlie. Now, on all three biases, ValueCapper agrees with how the public should bet the race. Okay, let's see if we can make a finer distinction. By the way, if this were a normal race, if I mean not a Triple Crown race, if this were in the middle of the week with a $5,000 claimer at Golden Gate, and I had gone this far in the analysis, I'm done. Okay, but there's still a bit of the racing fan in me that, curious and all. This would be an easy pass at this point, but let's take a look. Let's see which colts are really fit the Belmont Stakes profile, the 1.5 mile profile at Belmont. That is within 3.5 lengths at the second call, and 49.9 to 59, 50.9 energy expenditure. Well, here's Essential Quality. Look at its beaten lengths at the second call. Half, neck. Okay, 4.5 that he did that when he came off the pace at the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, which he won, and then 0, and then 1. So it's perfect. He's within 3.5 lengths. He can win from just off the pace, from a little further back. But take a look at these energy expenditures. 50.33, 50.87, 50.94. It's perfect. It's perfect, and it's the favorite. And I'm sure it will be not sure, but I'm guessing this will be the favorite. But this is a perfect fit for the Belmont 1.5 mile. Hot Rod Charlie's not too far off. Positionally, he's great. Look at the beaten lengths. 1/2, 1, 1.5, 3. Head, 3, 2.5, 2. Those percentage earlies are a little early. The percentage energy, rather. 51.35, 52.54. He's got that one race at Santa Anita where he ran a 49.55. So that kind of fit. That was in his maiden win. I'm discounting the bottom three, which are kind of closer, at least the 49 and the 50.24. Closer, but they run on the turf, and those tend to go late anyway. So not bad. Not bad. Going through the others, Rock Your World. Again, other than that, poor start or whatever, the poor race in the Kentucky Derby, this horse is on or like really close to the lead at the second call. So positionally, it's good. If you look at his percentage earlies, 52.31 in the Santa Anita Derby, which he won, and 51. Well, let's not count that. That was turf. Those bottom two are turf. My opinion, this is an early runner. Now, will he try to steal the race? Probably. He'll go as far as he can, and if he runs, I honestly don't know. This is one of those I don't know. I don't know what happened to him in the Derby. Is it because he got a bad break and he really needs the lead to win? And I think this colt needs the lead to win. Or was I kind of, quote unquote, my projected numbers were good and the Santa Anita Derby wasn't as good as it appears. Now, again, Medina Spirit came out of that race, so it's a puzzle to me. It's a mystery to me. Rombauer. Rombauer's last couple of races, the Bluegrass and the Preakness, a pretty good fit. In other words, it was 3 lengths back and 2 lengths back, and those percentage earlies are good, 50-21, 50-78, 50-51. So not bad at all. Further back in his career, I mean, if you go back to last year, in the Juvenile, which he was beaten by Essential Quality, and by the way, in the Bluegrass, which he was beaten by Essential Quality. So it looks a little bit late to me. It's a second morning line favorite. I don't think there'll be a price there. I mean, you can't fault. He's 2 for 3 this year. And that nice win in the Preakness. Again, there was a race, if you watch my last video, which I passed. So the fact that, I didn't consider Rombauer, I didn't consider the race because I'm looking for value. Okay, Known Agenda. This was the hot Derby horse, wasn't it? You remember? Everyone was talking about Known Agenda. Won the Florida Derby, came in, was fairly well bet. Um, this is a mixed bag. Obviously, way back in the Derby, but 2.5 ahead at the second call, then 11.5, then 5, then don't know what to make of it. And it's early expenditure, again, all over the place. Don't know if this is not terrible. His numbers are not as good as the others, so I'm not very high on its chances. Overtook. Here. Let me sound like one of those commentators. Well, Pletcher's putting the blinkers on. Overtook, and that should make a difference and wake this horse up and get him to break closer to the pace, which he'll definitely need. With all right, definite, certain. You know, Todd Pletcher's, or you call him Todd, whatever. Look, here's what I know for relative fact. Beaten lengths the second call, 4x4, 7x5, 6x6, 6x5.5. Okay? It's positionally late. The percentage earlies are okay, they're in the ballpark. Now, maybe, who knows? I mean, again, other than this colt's only got its maiden win and finished third in the Peter Pan, a grade 3. Not the profile of a Triple Crown champion, but who knows? Maybe the blinkers are on. This horse goes and tries to get closer to the pace. We'll see. I just don't think its numbers are good enough. Bourbonic is just such an interesting colt. He won the Wood Memorial at 72-1. Way back in the Derby. In fact, it was way back in the Wood Memorial. It was virtually last at the second call. 3x4.5. And then look at the bottom race, 8x12. The only 2 fits it has is at the mile at Aqueduct. So both races he was second by a length and a half and went on to win. And those energy percentages were good. So actually, Bourbonic is a pretty good fit. The only thing is that its numbers are just not that good. The Wood Memorial, even though there was a big close and a big late fraction, wasn't that great of a total number. This could be used in exotics if I could find other horses. And France Godina, who knows? He's got one race in this country. It was ran a couple of calls and then kind of gave up the ghost in the Preakness, earning obviously a poor number. Looks prominently placed from the comments I can read in his races in Japan. Just don't know. This is an unknown. This is almost like having a first-time starter in the race. So remember, and I've alluded to this, a horse has to have good numbers as well as a proper distribution of those numbers. Because if he doesn't have good numbers, the position and the percentage energy just doesn't matter. Because he'll do this beautiful distribution of its energy and make a move from 9th to 5th at the finish. Okay? So here we are on the neutral bias. Here we are with the top 2 horses right on top of the line. No matter what you do with this race, how you shake it or make it dance, no matter how the race is pace biased, what do you do when your approach comes up with 2 colts that figure to be really well bet? Well, if you're value capping, you pass the race. Sorry, not sorry. This is the process. This is the huge, biggest difference that we have as horse players as opposed to other forms of gambling. If you play blackjack, you put your money down and then you see your cards. If you play poker, you put your money down in the form of an ante and then you see your cards. In horse racing, there's no ante. Okay? There's no ante. You don't have to put up any money to sit there and say, no, I'm passing this race. You can't just throw your cards back. Well, you can, but you lose, right? Blackjack, you don't like your cards, you throw them away. They take your money. Same thing with poker, right? You fold the hand. In horse racing, there's no ante. In fact, I did videos about this years ago. I'll see if I can find them and put a link for you into the description. It's called The Biggest Difference. The biggest difference between the pro player and the recreational player. Let me tickle your memory about those, and I'll put a link in the description. They're, if you allow me to say so, they're worthwhile. I did them as a podcast, I think, years ago. Okay, so for me, the Belmont's a big fat pass. Sorry, not sorry. But as I often say on these big days, there's kind of amateur money in the field, and the undercards are good. Now, I haven't had a chance to go through all the undercards, but I did take a look at the Belmont undercard and found 2 races that I find kind of interesting. Let me show you. The first one is the Woody Stephens. Always loved this race. Woody Stephens, who won all those Belmont Stakes. I had the pleasure of sitting next to him in the founders room, the founders room at Belmont, excuse me, and watched several races with him. He's, rest in peace. He was just a great guy. But this race is named after him. It's a highly pressured race. This is the Belmont third race on Saturday, June 5th, 2021. I noticed that just about every horse, it's one of those highly pressured races. 7 furlongs, highly pressured, theoretically going to favor the later running horses. We see that Jackie's Warrior, the 7-5 favorite, had a hard race after a layoff, and also has got the wrong running style. It's an early horse. The 4-1 morning line, Caddo River, is on a layoff. Drain the Clock, 7-2 morning line, on a layoff. The 5-2 second choice in the morning line has had a very hard race. In other words, all but 2 horses have some kind of flaw in them, and most of them are early horses. If you look at the L on the right side of the screen, the 2 horses without those flaws also happen to have very good L late fractions. Let's take a look at the pressure in the race. Jackie's Warrior, Dream Shake, Caddo River, Drain the Clock. That's going to be a gaggle of horses. I think this may set up for a closer. Again, I've got to be right, quote unquote right. The projection's got to be on point about that pressure developing and the other horses who close getting a clean trip to close. Tulane Trist, look at his last 2 races, made beautiful closes to finish second and first. I mean, this is what you want in a 7 furlong highly pressured race. And then you've got Nova Rags, who in the Pasco down at Tampa Bay in January, and in its maiden win makes nice little closes. Now, lately, Alvarado's been putting him on the lead in the Peter Pan and the Florida Derby. Maybe that's because it was the longer distance. If he runs back to that kind of race like he did at Tampa, it's going to be pretty good. So, with all of that said, my assessment is this. I would take the top horse, Tulane Trist, at 7-1 and up. I'd also bet Nova Rags if it were 10-1 and up. So I'll look. Those are my parameters for betting. 7-1 on the 5, 10-1 on the 1. If I only get the price on one horse, I'll just bet that one horse. If I get 7-1 and 10-1 and up, I'll bet both of those horses, and I'll definitely have them hooked up in exotics. Again, the pressure's got to develop. These horses have got to get clean trips, but I've got a bunch of flawed horses that figure to be well bet. The second bonus race that I have for you, the undercard race, is the 5th race at Belmont on Belmont Day, June 5th. And I've got 4 horses above random. And it's a very smooth line that ValueCapper gives me. 5-2, 7-2, 4-1, 5-1. Now, one of these horses sticks out. Actually, I've got to say fillies stick out because it's the Acorn Stakes, right? It's a girl race. I'm sorry, that's probably politically incorrect on so many different levels. It's a race for fillies, so there you go. Make Mischief is 4-1 on the ValueCapper line, 12-1 on the contention line, and 20-1 morning line. The even money favorite, Search Results, who's formidable in this race, admittedly, but she had a very hard race last time. So let's take a look at Make Mischief. How bad can this filly look? Well, she ran pretty well in the 8 bells at Churchill. 2 for 3 at the distance. 1 for 1 at Belmont. Got a couple of nice placings in as a 2-year-old filly in the Schuylerville and the Adirondack. Couple of graded races at Saratoga. This is not. Look, it's not Man of War, but she looks pretty decent. I just don't see the 20-1 or even the 12-1 that our contention line, what the public should do with the race. Now, look, search results is a formidable filly. She just missed winning the Kentucky Oaks. Okay, she's 3 for 4 lifetime. The only race she lost was the Oaks. Wins the Maidens, wins the Busher, blows out the Gazelle, and again just missed the Kentucky Oaks. So this is tough competition. However, if you look at the last race, at the stretch she came second by a head and then fought all the way down to second by a neck. She's not had that kind of a tough race. If that's taken something out of her, it may make the 5 horse a bet. And that's the 5 is Make Mischief. And so my assessment is I would take this 5 in the 5th race at Belmont on Saturday, June 5th, 2021, at 8-1 and up. And that's my assessment. It's a fairly simple value play. And yeah, I know that 6 filly is very, very strong. But if she's a little tired, this may be a nice shot. Hope you enjoyed this analysis. Well, that's it for this edition of the Value Capping Rant, the 2021 Belmont Stakes. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart so much for taking this time to allow me to share with you my insights into handicapping, value capping, and the 2021 Belmont Stakes. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button. If you want to see more like this, hit the subscribe button. In the description, there's a link to the Value Capping free video course. You can find that at ValueCapper.com. The link's in the description. But hey, all of that aside, really, thank you. I appreciate you watching this video and spending this time. Until next time, this is Michael Pizzolla saying, wait for your prices and let the bet make you. I'll see you soon.